They've officially released the new 2026 Part B Medicare costs. Woohoo! But depending on whether you're on a Medicare Advantage, a supplement, or original Medicare, what you could pay in 2026 could look different. Let's break down the real cost by plan type. All right, so first and foremost, the Part B premium. Now, as many of you know, Part B premium is income dependent. And what they do is they look 2 years back at what your tax return was. So if your yearly income in 2024 was $109,000 or less, the standard Part B premium for 2026 will be $202.90. Now, that's probably about $4 less than what experts expected that it would be for next year. Most people thought it would be around $206. So yeah, you saved $4. Next, if your income was between $109,000 and $137,000 for your individual, or $218 to $274 joint, you would pay $284.10. All right, up next, this is when it starts to really jump. So if your individual income is up to $171,000, or your joint tax return is $342,000, you would pay $405.80. Next, if your individual tax return is up to $205,000 or your joint is up to $410, you would pay $527.50. And then individual up to $499.9 or joint up to $749.9, you would pay $649.20. And last, if your individual tax return, if you were making over $500,000 a year, or as a joint, as a couple, you were making $750,000 or more, you would pay $689.90. Now, as a quick reminder, they do look 2 years back. So if you were a high earner when you were working and eventually your income reduces, these amounts will reduce over time. Additionally, if you are paying your Medicare Part B directly out of your Social Security check, they'll just take this right out of your Social Security check. But if you're paying it quarterly because you're not yet drawing Social Security, they'll just send you a quarterly bill for that. All right, so what does this increase in Part B premium mean to you, and what else is increasing? So I'm going to go through 3 different scenarios, which covers most people on Medicare. So those individuals that are on original Medicare only, those that are on a Medicare Advantage plan, or last, those are on a Medigap or Medicare Supplement plan. So first things first, if you're just on original Medicare, how do these costs impact you? So first and foremost, the standard person pays that $202.90, so right at $203 essentially. There's not a lot of copays associated with this, but what's important to know is there's some deductibles. The Part B deductible for next year is $283. Now, the coinsurance, after you pay that deductible, there is a Part A deductible as well. We'll have another video coming up in the future about Part A costs, but sticking with general premiums and costs that you really need to know that would impact you. Medicare pays 80%, you pay 20%. That's the standard on original Medicare. Now, the thing to keep in mind and why most people choose to buy a supplement or an Advantage plan to go with original Medicare is that there's no out-of-pocket maximum on these plans. There's no cap to what that 20% would be. So if you're in the hospital for a while, just plan on that 20% can get quite large. So as many of you know, that means most people choose to take a Medicare Advantage or a Medicare Supplement plan to pair with it. So first things first, let's take a look at the Medicare Advantage plans for next year. So, the one thing you need to know is you're going to pay that Medicare Part B premium regardless of any of these plans that you're on. So you are going to be paying your $202.90 for your Part B premium to be on your Medicare Advantage plan. As a reminder, Part A, there is no premium associated with it because you've paid taxes your whole life for it. As long as you or your spouse have worked 40 quarters or 10 years, you get Medicare Part A at no cost. So copays, what are these? What is the copays? What do the things look like on most of the Medicare Advantage plans for next year? We're seeing that the copays are changing slightly, but not overly significantly for next year. Most people on a Medicare Advantage pay between $0 and $20 to see their primary care doctor. A lot of them are $0. They pay between $2 and $50 on average to see a specialist. If they're going to have an outpatient procedure, most people pay between $150, $300. Some of them might be slightly above that, slightly below that, but that's a good average. Chemotherapy is fairly standard across the board. If you have to have something like chemo, you're going to pay around 20 to 30%. And then some imaging, infusions, etc. You might have some coinsurance on those, but generally most Medicare Advantage plans do have set dollar amounts, so those are called copays. Most Medicare Advantage plans on the health insurance side have $0 deductibles. So essentially your health insurance kicks in right away. Now, a lot of these plans might institute a small deductible for your Part D drugs, but a lot of times they waive that deductible if you're only on generics or very low cost drugs. So, the one thing here that I do want to address is I mentioned the out-of-pocket maximum or the cap on your expenses when I was talking about original Medicare. These plans have a MOOP, which is a maximum out-of-pocket, MOOP, and it varies by plan that you look at. There are some plans that are below this $3,500 average, and there are some plans that are above this $7,550 average. What I would like to say is generally the HMO plans have the lower maximum out-of-pocket, and the PPO plans have the higher maximum out-of-pocket. But it really depends on where you live, what type of plans are available in that area. I know where we are, there are some that have less than $3,500 and there are some that have more than the $7,550. So the last thing that I want to address today is what does the cost impact the Medigap plans? So the Medicare Supplements, as with the other two options, you have to pay that $203 Part B premium. In addition to that, the way that the supplements work, don't forget, is you're going to pay a monthly premium for these plans. And generally, as a reminder, the Medicare Advantage plans, I said most of these were little to nothing, so around $0, but you pay copays for everything you do throughout the year. The supplements, on the other hand, you pay a higher monthly premium, but you pay little to nothing when you go see the doctor. So these plans all do have a plan premium. The plan premiums generally increase like your homeowner's insurance or your car insurance would slightly each year. Some averages here are some examples that you can take a look at. Plan G and Plan N are generally the most popular two supplements in the United States. Plan G, there are no copays associated with it. You pay your monthly premium on top of your Medicare premium, and then you pay your Part B deductible, which as mentioned is $283 for next year. And then you're not going to see copays or anything else throughout the year. Everything's going to be covered as long as it's a Medicare covered expense. Now, Plan N is a little different. What we typically see with Plan N is they reduce your monthly premium a little bit, but then they add in some copays. So, for example, if you went to the doctor, you could pay up to $20, and there's a math formula that they use for this. So, I know people that get bills for $7, $12, $16. It sort of depends on the situation, but just know worst case, at the doctor, it's going to be $20. If you go to the emergency room, you'd pay up to $50. If you're admitted to the hospital, then that $50 would be waived because all of your hospitalization would be covered at 100%. With Plan N, there is still that $283 deductible, so it's important to note that too. These plans don't really have coinsurance, so it's not something you have to worry about. It's just that set copay. These plans do not have, in general, a maximum out of pocket. Some of the lettered plans do, but of the most popular two, they don't, because really you're only looking at a $20 and a $50 copay throughout the year. So, we're not generally talking about that getting too high because tests and hospital stays and other things are covered at 100% on that supplement. So, in general, the cost of living adjustment from Social Security for next year will help cover most of that Part B premium increase. That cost of living adjustment is about $54 a month. Right now, we are currently in the annual enrollment period. So if you have questions, if you're curious about some of your plan options, anything there, go ahead and give us a call. We're happy to help. We're happy to answer questions, see what type of information you'd like. And, we will have more videos on the additional costs for 2026 related to this, as well as we have several other videos on our site and on our YouTube page about other costs and other Medicare factors. So cheers to 2026 and knowing what the Part B premium is going to be.